What is one thing every great author has to do? They have to publish their first book. Now, reading people's first published books is not something I just get drawn to. It's not something I do ever really. If it happens, it happens. If I'm reading an author for the first time, I'm usually going to read their most popular book or just pick a random one that I found interesting. Especially since sometimes people's debut book is their most popular book they'll ever do, or it'll take years of experience for someone to publish a book that finally breaks ground and the public sees. So I thought, what a better idea to explore this idea than to read three authors' first published books and see what I think of them. The first author I got is actually a pretty classic author. You probably have heard the name before, Kurt Vonnegut, and I got Player Piano. I believe he published this in 1952, which would make it the oldest book I have on this challenge. Look, there's even a little picture of him on the back. I don't know if you saw, but I do have a bookmark in it. I've already started reading this book. Basically, it's a dystopian fiction trying to pull on strings that, like, oh, this could happen in real life, like a 1984 kind of book, which I love those kind of books, so it's why I started reading it. Really excited to see how the rest of that goes. The next book I got came out a little bit of left field. I haven't read a romance book in any of my challenge videos, so I thought, why not start here? I got a book by Lyla Sage called Done and Dusted. I don't know if you can tell by the cover, it's definitely going to be a cowboy romance. I mainly just picked it because I love the cover art and I love the little art style for it. I'm not against reading romance, I've read it before. It's not like my go-to genre or anything, but I wanted to throw something new in here. Plus, it's a series, so if I enjoy it, then maybe I'll read the rest. Now, if you've watched my channel at all, or specifically my first video, you'll know that I've become quite a John Green fan. And a book people were telling me I should read of his when I posted that video was Looking for Alaska. So just so happens that's his first published book. So that's what we're going to be reading. I have extremely high hopes for this one. I've loved every John Green book I've read so far, and I'm guessing this is going to be no different. All right, so those are the books I'm going to be reading. Like I said, I'm going to be starting off with Player Piano. All right, let's get to it. The fifth kid of a 9-child family is less mid than this book. This book took me way longer to read than I had anticipated. Not because it's a long book, not because it's complicated and I need to reread through some lines or something. It just was boring and I didn't want to read it. But I kind of want to preference it with the fact that this is his first published book, Kurt Vonnegut's. I know people love Slaughterhouse-Five and Cat's Cradle, so I almost feel like I did him an injustice by starting off with Player Piano. So Player Piano is basically about a world run by machines where they're taking all the human jobs. So basically any manufacturing job, definitely it's not there anymore. And it's starting to take jobs like barbers, bartenders, piano players, and essentially you follow the character of Paul, who is a manager at one of these kind of plants that have all these machines running right now. That sounds super interesting, hence why I decided to read it first, but it just wasn't it. I'm going to get the stuff that I didn't like about the book out of the way first, so we can get into the stuff that I thought they did well. For being a dystopian book, it lacked the oomph and the urgency that I need from a dystopian. When I'm reading about an alternate reality, I need it to make me feel like this is a bad thing, like this needs to be fixed, like my character he's needing to just do whatever he can to stop this. But throughout the entire book, I feel like there was a lack of description maybe, or maybe it just wasn't explained well enough, where I didn't really get that urgency. It didn't feel that bad. So if I don't feel that way, how am I supposed to resonate with this theme of this is what the world could be like? The relationships just weren't it. This book talked about how it was satire a little bit, like the New York Times and a couple other places who reviewed it said like, oh, it has a lot of like black humor in it. It's supposed to be very satirical, but it wasn't really funny at all to me. And I don't know if that's because it was written in 1952, so it just went over my head. But most of the time, anytime it was funny, I just thought it was confusing or weird. And so with the relationships, like, for example, Paul and his wife, or Paul and his friends, it felt very like how is this even a relationship? They don't even act like a relationship. It's very clear his wife, Anita, is very like just focused on the money and is proud of only really his position. Yet our characters here being like, oh my God, I love Anita. She's amazing. I really didn't understand that at all. And like I said, it wasn't even really funny. It was just kind of like, okay. But like I said, this book is mid. So there's parts of it that I did like that kind of brought it back around to the 50s for me. For example, the parts that were impactful, that felt like they did have some urgency to them, were very much impactful. There's actually a couple quotes in the book that very much like resonated with me that I felt were very strong and even apply to today's world. There's a part where Paul says, when you take a step back from the wrong choice, you're taking a step in the right choice. And I don't really want to give the context of that situation because I don't want to spoil these books at all, but it really stuck with me when he said that. The chapters switch from perspectives. Sometimes there's probably 4 different perspectives, some short, some long, but there's a perspective of a person who's a Shah. Basically, they're like a foreign leader who's checking out the United States and how they run it. Whenever the Shah's in it, he's kind of like constantly pointing out the flaws in their system and how it can be even immoral at times. And he does it in a very unique way that was really fun to read those chapters. Also, some of the world building in it, I was a big fan of, especially the beginning, which is what gave me high hopes for this book. When they talked about how Ilium works, which is the city this takes place in, runs, it was super interesting seeing how they segment off certain groups of people and the machines from everyone, where you start seeing, oh wow, like that is why people are getting undervalued in this dystopian world. That really helped me understand the world they were in and why it was dystopian and why it was a negative thing. But like I said, this kind of like tapered off and it kind of lost me, especially like in the middle and end. So I wasn't huge about this book. I thought about it and I'm definitely giving it like a 5.5. I think that's really fair for the points I said. I wouldn't suggest someone read this other than if you were just wanting to read Kurt Vonnegut. And like I said, I really want to read like Slaughterhouse-Five and Cat's Cradle because I just feel like those would give me a better experience. And maybe reading his first published book kind of tainted my view, but I'm not going to let it taint my view. I'm definitely still going to go read those 2 at some point. So not a great start to the challenge, but not all of these are going to be bangers, and that's kind of what reading's all about. So next up, I'm going to read Done and Dusted, which is the romance book. I'm pretty excited for this. I haven't read a romance in a little bit, and I'm kind of feeling in the romance mood. So I'll give you my thoughts after I'm done reading it. Do you feel the love in the air? Because I don't. Okay, I'm being a little harsh. I have finished Done and Dusted, and I do feel a little dusted. It was a pretty quick read. I mean, it was pretty simple. Like, there wasn't much to it, much depth to the characters, really, but it was, like, kind of fun. Basically, we follow the life of Emmy Ryder, whose family owns Rebel Blue Ranch, and she's coming back from, like, Colorado after an accident horseback riding. And this is where the love interest comes in, and you meet all her family and whatnot. Like I said, it's a sweet book, you know? I very much like the world building of it. Like the way the ranch was described was really cool. Like it did have a very cowboy aesthetic to it. I feel like I could imagine where each place was on the ranch based on the character's description of it, which is like always a plus if that can help me imagine the setting a little better. I was also a huge fan of the side characters in it, stepping away from the main ones, like her brothers, her father, her friend. They all felt really cool and unique when usually it's the other way around where they don't have much depth at all. But honestly, I feel like I know more about her family than I do herself. And I just loved how they interacted with Emmy. Like, for example, there's Gus and Wes, who are her brothers, and Gus is very controlling while Wes is very like caring and comforting. But at the end of the day, they're still there for their sister. And so you see how they handle that differently with her. Her father's like very wise. He always seems to know what to say to her to make her feel better. I don't know. I just really connected with the side characters more than the main. That being said, the main characters kind of felt like I went to the store, I bought a sandwich, and I took a bite and there was like cheese and lettuce. I paid $5. Like I'm looking for a better sandwich. And there'd be like attempts to make the characters more fleshed out, but they were always like very quick. Like they would talk about Emmy and her having ADHD, but it would be like maybe a page length before it just wasn't involved anymore. It would be the same with Luke, where they would be like, oh my God, he has such a reckless past. And then it'd be like, oh, but that's not a factor at all. It kind of just felt like they were throwing things in there, even though they weren't making an impact at all. Now, arguably, the most important thing is the chemistry between Emmy and the love interest, Luke. I just didn't really feel the chemistry at all. I mean, like, they were nice to each other. Obviously, they found each other attractive. But, like, beyond that, there wasn't much of a connection. Yeah, I'm reading pages here where Luke is talking about her being the one and Emmy being like, I've never met a man like this before. And I'm kind of confused because it's like, what? I don't feel like that's true. He said like one nice thing to you. He like helped you. He did a basic human kindness, and now he's the best person in the world. And that really kind of brought it down for me, and it made me very bored because there wasn't much depth. I feel like half the lines in the book was just like, wow, look how attractive he or she is. Whoa. But like they never said like a sincere comment about their character. But like I said, this was fun. It was a fun read. It was simple. I'd probably suggest this to someone who's looking for just like a chill romance. I mean, it's very spicy, don't get me wrong, but like in terms of the characters and what they have to deal with, it's not that crazy. So for all those reasons, I'm going to give it a 6.2. I enjoyed it, just not my kind of book. If maybe I was someone else or just a more of a romance reader, I might rate this higher. So maybe I'm not doing it the justice it deserves. But for me, it's a 6.2. Now, I love romance. I really do enjoy it in a bunch of fiction, any other genre where it's kind of a side plot, because they tend to feel more real and I can connect with it better. But I just couldn't do it that much with this one. So that leaves us with Looking for Alaska by John Green. This is the one I've been looking forward to the most, and I cannot wait to finally read something that pretty confident is going to be a 5-star for me. All right, wish me luck. Sometimes you read a book and you walk away from it knowing you're going to remember it. You forget books. You forget stories, you forget people, and time goes on and that increases the odds of that happening. But then you read a book and it sticks with you. And that's how I feel about Looking for Alaska. Looking for Alaska follows Miles, who's joining a new boarding school because he's trying to look for the perhaps, which you can really account to just looking for meaning. Why is he doing this? Why is he here? He wants to know why. He's looking for the perhaps. Perhaps this is the reason why. And he meets friends along the ways. He meets Colonel. He meets the Eagle. He meets all these different friends and people. And he meets Alaska. Now, I'm not going to tell you who Alaska is or anything about her or really much about any of his friends. I don't want to ruin that for you. But know that it's a beautiful story of realization. Throughout most of this book, I felt myself disagreeing with Miles on about everything, the way he dealt with things, his motivation to even do something. And I didn't like that. This is a first-person book, and therefore, whoever I'm reading is who I am. And I guess I just didn't like to be Miles. But then I realized that's okay. That not everyone is going to be like me or do everything the way I want to do it. So I accepted that. And I tried to learn something from it. And it made me realize how much we put that perhaps into things. How we put so much value to someone else to give us meaning. Whether it's your significant other, your family, your work, whatever it is, we put so much into it just so we can maybe get that perhaps for ourselves. And that's what Miles did. And I didn't like that. But I accepted that that's what people do sometimes, and I fear I probably have done that myself. And so after I've made these realizations, I'm reading this story and I'm just like sucked into it. Like, it really just kept amazing me. And even though I didn't relate to Miles, I related to some of the feelings he was feeling. And weirdly enough, I also related to Alaska. A lot of people, they told me this book was really sad. And while I could see how you might see it that way, I kind of look at it as more just profound and very revealing. Truth is, we all are looking for our perhaps, and maybe we think we found it, maybe we haven't. But I can't blame Miles for thinking he found it. And I learned to love his character, especially once I finished it. So what started off as a 7 for me ended at a 9.2. And once again, John Green knocks it out of the park. I'm starting to just think I need to read all his books. Weirdly enough, ending on this book, though, made me think about this challenge I'm doing, reading people's first published books. And I've been rating them, and particularly the first two, I haven't rated very highly. But truth is, being an author is so difficult because you need to accept the criticism of everyone else and just hope that your story, which you believe is great, is also great for others too. So I commend anyone who can put a book out there. And even though I gave Kurt Vonnegut and Lyla Sage's first book not my favorite, I won't be surprised if I read another one of theirs. And I think it goes without being said that I definitely would read John Green again. So with that being said, thank you for watching again. I love doing these challenges. It gives me a reason to explore new authors and read things I wouldn't have read otherwise. So I appreciate you watching. Farewell!